My name is Andre Loy, and I am the president of IFOAM Organics International.
And what do you think about your participation at COP, and what is useful for you to participate in this process?
This has been, I'll just start again. We have been active in all the COPs from Copenhagen onwards, and I believe that this has been one of the most important COPs for us for getting agriculture in the agenda for climate change.
What do you think we can do as farmers' constituency to strengthen our lobby work at COP, or to our interests as farmers duly recognize?
We still have a lot more work to do, because most of the people who are involved in the decision making come from the environment sections of their country, not from the agriculture sections, so they just think about emissions. The fact is, the science shows that if we just stop emissions, we will not stop climate change. We need to do more than just stop emissions. We actually have to take the carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. At the moment, we have 400 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. If we want to get an agreement at 2 degrees, we have to have 350 parts per million. If it's less than 2 degrees, we have to have less than 350 parts per million. The only way we can achieve that is to take this carbon out of the atmosphere. One of the most important initiatives that has come in this COP is the 4 for 1,000 quatre per mille by the French government. And this is based on very good science by the leading French scientific research organization, INRA, showing that if we can change farming systems to adopt practices where we can increase just very small amounts of soil carbon every year, we can take this excess carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and make a significant difference. So this initiative has actually put farming in the center of the suite of solutions that are needed for dealing with climate change. The other really important part about this initiative, we know by increasing soil organic matter in farming systems, we increase the ability of the soil to capture and store rainfall. We have very good data showing that these systems are more resilient to drought, they're more resilient to floods, they're more resilient to the extreme events of climate change. So for us, this is a very important initiative, because we're talking about mitigation and adaptation at exactly the same time, and using farming as the basis of it. We are very excited about it. We want to be actively involved in it, because this will be developed over the next year and signed off in Marrakesh. And we see that Marrakesh, the meeting in 2016, COP21, will be the most important meeting for farming. There we will take center stage.
What does food security mean for you, and do you think it's worth including it in the outcome text of COP21?
I would say it would be madness not to include food security. At the moment, farmers are the people who are most vulnerable to climate change. We have about 1.5 billion smallholder farmers who are vulnerable, but it's not just smallholders. All farmers are vulnerable. I come from a country where farmers traditionally have had thousands of hectares, and they are vulnerable. The fact is that as farmers, we produce all the world's food. No one else does, we do. And if we're in trouble and we cannot produce it, the whole world is in trouble. And so I cannot understand why people do not understand that as we go into climate change and we go into more severe weather events, and this will affect food security, why we aren't doing more about it now and making it a priority. And I want to give the example of Syria. The current situation in Syria did not start as a religious issue. It started due to a drought, due to people having to leave farms, due to food riots. It destabilized the country, and look at what it is doing now. That's one country. What do you think will happen to the world as we go further into climate change and into droughts and severe weather conditions? The world has to understand that it's not just producing food, it's also the stability of our social and political systems as well. Food is the very basis of it. And so this agreement and all future agreements has to focus on food and has to focus on agriculture.
Can you give us some examples of climate change mitigation and climate change adaptation actions in your country?
Well, I won't talk so much about my country because I am a president of a global organisation. We have 800 member organisations in 125 countries around the world. What I'd like to do is give you examples of both mitigation and adaptation based on peer-reviewed science, good, solid science, looking at systems that increase organic matter. I'm the president of IFOAM Organics International, and the word organic agriculture came from the fact that our primary management practice is recycling organic matter to build up soil organic matter. This is carbon dioxide that we capture from the air from plants and we put into the soil and we build it up. Now, some of the data we have shows that if we could scale up these systems across the world in farming, the amount of organic matter we could take out, the amount of carbon dioxide we could take out of the atmosphere and store as organic matter, we could actually reverse climate change in between 25 to 50 years, depending on how we do it. Considering it took us 250 years to get here, to say that within the generation, or the next generation, we can bring things back to the way they should be through farming is an incredible achievement. And what I'd like to say here, which is very important, that we're not talking about untested technologies like carbon capture and storage or geoengineering. We're talking about existing proven practices that good farmers are doing now. All we need to do is train and educate, and we can scale up and we can reverse climate change through farming. Similar with adaptation, once again we have very good science, excellent science showing by increasing the soil organic matter we improve the quality of the soil, it resists erosion, it captures rainwater, it gives drought resilience. Because it's more like a sponge, when we get heavy rain, instead of washing away, it captures it and holds it. So all the evidence shows that these systems are higher yielding because they are more resilient in the extreme weather events. And what I'd like to say about extreme weather events, according to NASA and other experts, what used to be a 1 in 30 extreme event is now 1 in 5. And that frequency and the intensity of these events are increasing as we go further into climate change. So resilient adaptation is essential for farmers to survive and so that everybody can eat.
How do you think effective trade policies can support farmers' fight to the climate change?
We are a great believer in appropriate markets. What people forget is that farmers have to also live. They also have to have money. How do you pay for healthcare? How do you pay for school? How do you pay for transport? How do you pay for clothes? So farmers need an income. It's more than just being subsistence. And farmers have to be profitable. Unfortunately, at the moment, many farmers are not profitable, and that's why we see this drift of people off from farming into the slums on the edge of cities to live in abject poverty. We need to reverse that. A significant part of that is developing markets that ensure that farmers have a fair return for their produce. This is critical. We call this true value. We need to make sure that farmers are paid the correct price. The other really important one is actually to use markets as drivers of change. There are many markets out there that are prepared to pay a premium for farmers that are doing the right thing by ecology, by health. We need to engage with these markets so we can get that premium as an incentive for change. The other one that we need to do when we talk about markets and policies is we need to change subsidies. At the moment, the way the subsidies work, they are perverse. We're subsidising practices that lead to greenhouse gas emissions and soil degradation. We need to refocus these subsidies to farmers for climate-smart agricultural practices. And that is very important as well.
What changes should be put in place at political and social and at national and international level to improve farmers' access to the value chain?
We need a suite of solutions for this. One is that we need to train farmers about the value chain. A lot of farmers just think it's production. When I'm training farmers, I explain that production actually costs you money. It costs you money to grow something. You don't make any money until you sell it. So we need to get farmers to think the other way. You work from the market backwards. Where is your market? Now, these markets also have to be appropriate. For some people, it will be export markets. For other people, it will be the local market. For some people, it will be growing the crop primarily for the kitchen table. The kitchen table is actually a very important market as well, to feed the family and having a surplus that you can sell in the local market in town. For other people, they will want wider markets and sell in the cities and have more cash crops. And then finally, some people will export all around the world. There's a need for all of them, but we need to get the balance right. And we also need to do it in such a way that it's up to farmers as to which markets they want to use. We need choice. We actually have a very old saying, never put all your eggs in one basket. And that is particularly true with marketing. You need a diversity of markets for a farm to be viable. We need to make sure we have these markets. We need to make sure that farmers are trained to understand the importance and how to access these markets. And then we need to empower farmers to be able to make those choices as to which are the markets and which are the crops they want to use to put on those markets.
How can an increased food productivity be implemented in a sustainable way at local and global level?
There are many ways of doing it, and this is a very important issue as we go into climate change. So I've talked about the importance of soil organic matter and how we know that that average yields in these systems are actually higher than conventional ones with low soil organic matter. When we average these ones out over a 5-10 year period and we look at the ups and downs that come with droughts and weather events, the ones with very good levels of organic matter, their yields average out higher, around 30% higher. They don't tend to dip as much in the adverse events. That is very important. But the other one that we're bringing in now is the concept of ecological intensification. And this is where we are looking at what we call the ecosystem services and how to get a multiplier effect out of them so that we can actually increase the yield, the resistance to pests and diseases, the quality of the soil. And we're very pleased at the moment that the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization is right in the middle of reviewing and looking at how we can scale up ecological intensification, because they also see that it has a major role in ensuring that agriculture is productive and resilient in the face of climate change.
Do you think innovation can support farmers to better mitigate or adapt to the climate change?
Of course. A lot of people think organic is the way we farmed in the past, going backwards, but our definition of organics, we will work with traditional systems. We actually value traditional knowledge, but we want to see innovation and science as well. So we combine tradition, innovation and science. It's essential for us, and particularly as we go into the uncertainties of climate change. We need to innovate and we need good science to do it.
What do we have to do to motivate youth to remain in the farm and take over the old generation farming business?
This is one of the most important issues at the moment, because most farmers are very old, and the young people, they look at their parents and they go, look how hard they work for nothing or less than nothing. They can go to the city and get a better job. And so who will be doing the farming? And so we need to look at a whole range of issues here. One is profitability. It has to be worth their while. They need to be able to earn more from farming than from other incomes or other comparable jobs. So that's where markets and fair return and supply chains are really important, but also innovation. Many of them look at their parents and look at how hard they work in the fields, and they're bent over backs, their health problems and issues. So we need to look at appropriate farming technologies, whether you're a smallholder or a larger one. We need to look at these tools, how to bring them in to make farming easier. We need to look at the use of other technologies, for instance, smartphones and ways of accessing markets or crop information, that they can access. So we need to put together a package that makes farming profitable, easier to do than it is now, and exciting, because we're actually at the cutting edge of new appropriate technologies.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.